Did consultants from this classic sports film become blackballed because of their participation in it? We're going to look at that story and a whole lot more next. Hi everyone, welcome to Retroflix. This is your channel for retrospectives of movies and television. It's so good to be back. If you caught my last few videos, I mentioned that my last one back in May, that I was moving over the summertime, and it took me a lot longer to get everything situated, that I anticipated. But if any of you ever there moved, you know how challenging that is. So, but here I am, and finally, not everything is done, but enough is done here that I can continue. And we do TV shows sometimes on here, and when it's TV shows, they have the summer hiatus and they come back for their next episode, next season. Well, let's just look at this as a start of the second season, I guess, of Retroflix. Although hopefully next summer I'm not doing a hiatus. But it's great to be back with all of you, and hope you come back and enjoy these films and these TV shows, and looking back at these wonderful movies and TVs of yesteryear. Today we are going to look at a classic sports film, and I thought because of the beginning of football season, there is a classic sports film I loved out there. I got to see it back on HBO back in the 80s and the 90s. It would pop up. Maybe even the 2000s it was on. Sometimes they would show it. And it was a great movie. Definitely things that happened in that movie I don't think happen anymore, but it still resonates really. And so it's something that if you ever get an opportunity to watch, please go and do so if you like sports films, and particularly football, which this is going to be today. We're going to go right into this here and dive right into it. Our movie today we're going to look at is North Dallas 40. North Dallas 40 is a movie that was released in 1979. And North Dallas 40 basically looks at the conflict between an aging wide receiver and the head coach and the organization in general. And basically what the conflict here is, the wide receiver, the wide receiver's name is Phil Elliott, and Phil is at this point in his career, not everybody does it, but certainly his point in his career, as he is winding down, his body is breaking down, and he's having to do anything he can to get on the football field and play. And that, of course, would mean shooting up with painkillers or doing whatever it is for his body to get out there. And this is supported by the head coach, particularly, and who is a head coach is B.A. Struther. And B.A. Struther, he basically will say, whatever you need to do to get onto the field, you do it. He looked away from that and the drug use and that sort of thing, the painkillers and that to be able to for their players to get on the field. As long as you're on the field and they win, that is the bottom line. It was a win at all costs. And this movie came about because this actually was a best-selling book of the same name, North Dallas 40, that was written in 1973 by a former Cowboys wide receiver, Peter Gent. And because Peter Gent played for the Dallas Cowboys, it was speculated that the North Dallas Bulls, which is the name of the team in the movie, was the Dallas Cowboys. And so this organization that showed in the film was the Dallas Cowboys. This is basically Peter Gent's expose into not only the Cowboys, but at the time, the way football was on really any team, that you did all these things just to go out and make sure that you win on Sunday. So but the Dallas Cowboys obviously dispute that. In fact, Don Meredith, the famous quarterback, he back at the time of the move actually after the movie, he came out and had really some kind of choice words, I guess, with Peter Gent because of this. Let's look at the cast here. I'm just going to mention a few people in this. Number one is Phil Elliott. He's going to be played by Nick Nolte. Now he'll become obviously a very, very famous actor. Became pretty much an A-list for many years. He would hit a real big time about 3 years after North Dallas 40's release with 48 Hours, starring with Eddie Murphy. So it's interesting to go back and see his work before he was really, really well known. And he played Phil Elliott, the aging wide receiver. His quarterback was Seth Maxwell. Seth Maxwell was played by Mac Davis. Mac Davis at the time started getting in some acting roles. He was really famous for being a country western singer. So if you ever want to see any of his stuff, I'm sure it's on YouTube. And then he parlayed his success in country western and music back at the time. Probably one of the most famous there was at the time, really in the '70s. I remember him into an acting career. And then the coach of B.A. Struther was played by G.D. Spradling. In a 2002 article called "The Real Life," real spelled REEL, that dealt with movies. It was they talked about how it was reported after this movie was released that there were a couple people, particularly Hall of Fame football players, that consulted in this movie, and they were subsequently blackballed because of their participation in it. These two individuals as Hall of Famers are Tom Fears and Fred Biletnikoff. Tom Fears had contracts for scouting with teams, and they were terminated. And then you had Fred Biletnikoff, who was a member of the Oakland Raiders, the then Oakland Raiders, for 14 years, won Super Bowls with them, and then he basically was released, and then played one more year in the Canadian Football League, and then retired. He was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1988, but he was not asked back, and so there was this look at they're blackballing people here if you're involved in this movie. This was not the NFL, and the teams did not like this movie coming out. And they were pretty angry about it, and so it looked like there was retribution to them. Now, Pete Rozelle, the then commissioner of the NFL, denied that the NFL did any sort of organized blackballing, but he did say that if the teams may have done something, but they didn't like the movie, they may have made their own judgments on what to do with, how they were dealing with people that were in the movie. They may have made their own judgments, but the NFL did not have any sort of organized blackballing going on. So, basically it was, well, the NFL had nothing to do with this, but, the teams the individual teams may have made their own judgments. So, I mean, I certainly for one would not be surprised if anything like that happened back then, so. But what your thoughts are on that, please comment on that if you have any thoughts on that. Certainly, things aren't like that today with all the safety and all the rules in place for athletes to be treated and not have their health compromised. Certainly, I don't think we have that like we did yesterday. But anybody played football back then as a comment, or now you can comment on that as well. But I think this movie definitely is something you really should see. In 1979, there was only about 40 ticketed sold movies in the theaters at the time. This came in probably about 18, made about 26 million total eventually. But again, just a really good movie. I think in Rotten Tomatoes it comes out to about 85%. So it would definitely be worth your time to go back and look at a movie like this that detailed what life was as a professional football player back at that time. And then make your judgment whether you think it was true or not, because obviously the NFL and the teams didn't like that coming out. So, but I mean, I have my own opinions on that, but I certainly see, as far as the blackballing goes, I can certainly see that happening. Where can you see this movie? Actually, you can see it for free on Pluto. So go out and see it for no charge on Pluto. If you do want to pay for it, and you want to do that for whatever reason, it is on Apple TV, it's on Fandango at home, and it's on Prime Video. There, you can rent it there, but Pluto, it's for free. Go and check this out if you have a time. I think you'll really enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. It's so great to be back with you all. And we're going to do some more movies, and let's enjoy these retrospectives and these TV shows and movies of yesteryear, and take a look back at them. I really love doing this with you guys. And again, please comment down below if you have any comments on these. I'd love to have a dialogue with you. It's wonderful when we're able to do that. Until next time, that's a wrap.